Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show. Recording. Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Everybody's a special guest because they take their time to join me on my show. I'm joined by my cousin, Kristen. I didn't know how to explain it in another way. Just say cousin. She's my mother-in-law's cousin. Therefore, by approximation, she's my cousin. And they're visiting from Maine. But as you know, I love learning people's stories, learning about their journey. And she has quite a journey in regards to health and also Peace Corps. So I was like, wow, this is a really great topic that I think a lot of people would get some benefit out of listening to. So Kristen, for the listeners, give a little overview and then we'll go right into our topic today.
Hi, thanks for having me. We are cousins via my dad's cousin has always lived in Virginia, and we have in the past loved to come and visit her. And now that my kids are old enough to make their own memories, we're down here from Maine, and I have been trying to explain to them who Joni is, and she's basically what we call a cousin aunt because by the time we get to our kids and these generations, they're fifth or sixth cousins. So here we are with family. Let's just put it that way.
I love it. Yeah, I think that's how Black folks do too. It's just like they say, try to explain this relationship, and it's too far. You just say cousin, and it's a good overall. I think I got like 1,000 cousins out there in the world that I just claim, and then I have a bunch of uncles because everyone that was my dad's friend was like his brother, so I just call him Uncle whatever, Uncle Joe, Uncle this. So that's a long roundabout way to say also that I'm really excited to see you in Maine. That's one of the states that is supposedly on my banned list, but it's been lifted that I will be there and visit you. But in regards to leaving Maine, I think, I say Aunt Joan, but Joan to me has told me that, that's a lot of people don't leave Maine. Either they stay there or they leave. And coming to hear your story, you left and then went all over the world. So share a little bit of story about growing up and then traveling the world.
So I do think it's a little ironic that I'm back in Maine, as it were, because growing up, I wanted to be anywhere but Maine. However, it turns out it's a really great place to raise kids, especially if you like the outdoors. So growing up in Maine, in South Portland, Maine, the Portland area, which is southern Maine, I wanted to go see the world, and we didn't travel a lot as a family. So I eventually ended up kind of a long story, but out in Montana and going to college out there. And I lived there for 10 years. And my parents kind of knew that if I stayed in Montana, I would never come back home because Maine has a lot of things, but it also lacks some things. And what it lacks is diversity. And now they have a lot more diversity, but, just different experiences and cultures. And so they encouraged me to fulfill one of my lifelong dreams, which was to apply for the Peace Corps. And they said if I applied and got in, they would watch my dog for me. So I had a black lab named Chili Dog, and my parents took him in while I was gone. So I moved from Montana back to Maine quickly to drop off my dog. And then I ended up in Ecuador, South America, for 2.5 years with the Peace Corps, which was basically a year-long application process. You have to pass a background check and a health check and all these things. And I managed to make it through all that and lived in South America for 2.5 years. I had a degree from Montana State University, Bozeman, in public health. And there's not a lot to do in public health unless you have a master's degree. And I didn't have a master's degree. So this was a good segue for me.
Well, that's really excellent because at George Mason, I work with all kinds of different students. So this is really helpful to see, what can you do with a public health degree? And you said you were in Montana for 10 years. So yeah. Was it quite some time between graduating and then joining the Peace Corps?
I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but it's part of my history, so I'm just going to go with it. I actually followed the Grateful Dead for quite a while. And so it took me a number of years to get through college. I would take a class and go on tour. So when I eventually settled down, I graduated from college in 97 and I left for the Peace Corps in 99. So it was 2 years after I graduated from college, but college wasn't a 4-year program for me.
I love it. And coming to the stories of George Mason, we are a very diverse university in regards to not just race and ages, but just people with their educational journeys. We got a lot of veterans. We got a lot of people. So that is the Mason way. You would been totally at home at Mason, taking your time within school. That's just what we do here at Mason. But so what made you want to study public health? I want to get back to that because I was thinking like, okay, we just jumped right to Peace Corps, but what made you want to study health and public health?
I have always felt that our country hasn't done enough on the preventative aspect of things. And as someone who's, my mom was a nurse and we had a lot of nurses in my family. I am a nurse now, actually, full confession, but I really hesitated becoming a nurse because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something different for my family, but the health focus was always interesting to me. So I explored being a nutrition major, so I actually minored in nutrition. But I think the prevention aspect, it's really showing its ugly face now as we see so many people with diabetes, and there's just so many different aspects of public health. I had, my grandparents dying of smoking-related lung cancer, and just growing up when we went from people smoking in doctors' offices to now it's completely banned. I've always been interested in health, and so because I didn't want to become a nurse, even though I am a nurse, I was strongly interested in public health because I think there's so much we can do as a society to prevent the diseases that we are now seeing.
I love it because, one of the things that I see with, I have to turn myself up. One of the things I see with public health, and I'm learning, is that it is a systemic approach and it's a macro approach, understanding that systems and policies are in place that disproportionately exacerbate disease, right? And I think we won't go on a full tangent about the systemic, diversity part of it, where that because of certain accommodations, housing, all that regarding will disproportionately affect certain groups of people. So I think there's a great, I really love learning about public health. And as I study communication, I've seen a lot of intertwining of that, right? Like, how do we talk about this preventative stuff? How do we communicate it to the masses for that? But that might be a part two. I think that's there. It's because I want to still focus on your journey. It's so, okay, you're traveling with the Grateful Dead. You're doing it. You graduated. You got the how did you even get to the Peace Corps? Were they at the career fair or something, or were they at the table, or did you meet a recruiter? How did that happen?
I actually met someone who had done Peace Corps back when I was in high school, and she came to our high school and offered to do a talk in the library or something like that. And I was one of very few people who went, and I'd always wanted to escape Maine, and I always wanted to give back, and I'm a wicked empath. So the combination of those things had me curious about travel and helping others my entire life.
I love that. And then, so, okay, you said Ecuador, and before this podcast, we talked about when you go to the Peace Corps, they assign you certain countries, I guess, based on your background as well as your interest. So how did Ecuador come into play for your choice or your site of selection?
So they kind of region out the world into different segments, and this is going to sound kind of selfish, but I didn't want to go anyplace cold.
Okay.
Being from Maine and having lived in Montana, so I completely took off the radar, basically the stands, so Kazakhstan, and I was like, I'm not going to go to Peace Corps and eat canned spinach. So I blocked out that region and then said I was basically open to any other place in the world and that I would love to learn Spanish. I actually have asthma, so people with health problems, asthma, diabetes, need to go to a place where there are services to help you. So that also takes things off the list. So I was offered Morocco first, and I had a conflict with my schedule, so I couldn't go to Morocco. And then my second offer was Ecuador. And interestingly enough, they only allow you to decline 3 times before you have to start the process over. So I was a little nervous to turn down Morocco and really excited to accept Ecuador.
All right. So you got Ecuador. And just going back, is it like a grueling process? Did they grill you? Tell us if you ever left the States or you love America? I don't know. Like, was it a very like hard interview, or is it like, just they just want to vet you and,
Yeah, it's supposedly, and I do believe this, it's pretty hard to get into. Apparently, they only take 10% of the people who apply. Granted, I'm sure people apply not knowing some of the regulations. Like, you don't need a college degree, but if you don't have a college degree, you will have been a farmer for 30 years or just have a huge area of expertise that you're imparting on someone. So, my son, Max, can't graduate from high school at 18 and say, oh, I want to do this. They really want you to have either a lifelong skill or an education. So it was about a year-long process of vetting me, of interviewing, of make sure I had at least left the country. And thankfully, Maine is right next door to Canada. So I'd left the country and also gone to Europe very briefly. So they want to make sure that it's not going to be such a culture shock that you've never done anything, so that when you get to wherever you're going for 2.5 years, you can withstand the homesickness and that kind of thing.
Gotcha. And then, so talk about, and I'd like to say I was born for that because I'm a military brat and lived all over the world. So I think that part would have been straight. But I think there's still places, not to say like I'm the worldliest person, but still, even I have seen different places of the world, and it's shaped my perception. And, wow, things are so different. So talk about that plane landing in Ecuador and the first week. What was it like? Was it a shock, like, to your worldview system, as they say?
It was a shock to my worldview system because the two places I had primarily lived, in the Rockies and in New England, they're primarily places where Caucasians live.
Yeah.
Montana does have a big Native American population, but they're largely Caucasian places. So I landed in a place where I wasn't particularly fluent in the language, and everyone there was a different color than me. So it was pretty shocking, but in a good way, because I was ready to absorb it all. Okay.
And then, I remember your topic. Tell us, for the listeners, what was the Ecuador, what was your, not say your subject, but not the problem, but the thing that you told me, HIV research. Like,
yeah. So my group, so there's different groups that go, was rural public health. And so my project was primarily HIV prevention and education. And so when I did the Peace Corps, it was in the late 90s. So kind of the tail end of the HIV epidemic as we know it now. But the other thing that's interesting about HIV in Ecuador is that prostitution is still legal there, but no one actually has sex there because they're all Catholic. So it's quite a conundrum of social norms and cultural attitudes towards sex. In there, there's a lot of denial. It's just a really interesting, hot topic to bring in the idea of preventing something that they allegedly don't even do in the first place, which is completely untrue because we're all human.
Also, and I'm very interested, because I think in different pockets, it's intertwined with, like you said, sex and gender identity, and they think they only thought homosexuals would get it, but everyone can get it. And in certain places, because of access to needles and blood transfusions, I think that's Africa, right? Mm-hmm. Where disproportionately people are getting HIV because of the I guess not sanitation of the needles. So Ecuador was that with prostitution. Yeah. So you're getting a lot of, I guess, heterosexual men getting with the prostitutes, and they're getting it. So where was the education? To the schools, or to the grown men outside the brothels or something, whatever, because you have to be preventative. So we got to go to the schools and talk to the kids. Yeah. Or you can't go to church. They ain't gonna let you talk in church. So where are you passing out pamphlets, or where are you talking to people? I
was mainly in the schools, and I love high school age kids. Man. I hope that I'm as good a mom as I've always aspired to be when my kids get to be in high school, because I just love that age group. So I did a lot of teaching in the high schools, and I just found that really fun. Most of the people in the community really liked me, but they definitely were a few people who were like, oh, there is the, crazy gringa who hands out condoms all the time and wants our kids to have sex. And I'm like, no, it's the exact opposite. I just want you to be educated about, what's going on.
See, I love that, because it's about education, and I think it's breaking down stigma. Mm-hmm. And then I was about to ask that about what was the kickback. I know this wasn't sunshine and rainbows. Like you're coming in there talking about condoms and stuff to a culture. Yeah. So can you talk about some of that adversity part? Like that seems. Also, I would think about it, right? Like if I'm it's like two ways, right? Like I'm an outsider outside this community telling you what's good for you. Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I'm like saying the same thing. They call you gringo. I'm like, who is this white person telling us what's good for us? Yeah. As opposed to someone in the community. So one of the things, there's two questions. How strategic was it to build allies and people? Like it probably come the messenger, right? Like maybe you get a priest or somebody to say the same thing you said and they can absorb it. So did you find some allies that kind of like coming from them, they'd probably get they would listen more kind of thing. That's my thought.
I think my allies mostly came from being a friendly person and being really open and being happy and like being there to help them. But connecting with people on a very local level, the families in the community, like, hey, I'm a good person. I'm not here with anything up my sleeve. I'm just here to do good, or my perception of doing good, but there were definitely people. So I went to the Peace Corps at 28 years old. A lot of people go right out of college at like 22, 23. And so I was, quote unquote, a little bit older. So the fact that I was a single Caucasian woman, almost 30, 28, 29, living on my own in a country that I didn't come from, people would say, well, why did your parents throw you away? Yeah. Like, why don't they want you? And I was like, no, I'm really here by choice. So it's funny because in their culture, they wouldn't probably, at that time anyway, send their grown daughter off to do something. Their job would probably be to be married, have a career, be a mom, something along those lines. So people definitely were like, well, what are you doing here? And why doesn't your own family want you? So that was hard and interesting.
So talk about the homesickness and staying plugged in. How did you, stay plugged in and still feel connected to Maine or your family with that long distance in between y'all?
Thankfully, by the time I got to Peace Corps, email was a thing. I remember my mom asked me how I'm going to take my Hotmail address with me, and that was pretty cute. So it was kind of, in my mind, almost the perfect time to do Peace Corps. So we still wrote letters, and it turns out now, I just recently returned from Ecuador about a month ago, and this is now 2023. They don't have a national mail system anymore, but they had a national mail system, but we also had internet. So my dad would email me every single day, and he's recently passed away. So we have all the letters that he wrote back and forth to me printed out. So that's really special. So I feel lucky to have been in communication in an age where there weren't really cell phones. So I wasn't able to be tracked down, but I could communicate. Whereas I think now a lot of the volunteers in those types of programs carry cell phones with them, because who doesn't carry a cell phone? But back in my day, which sounds funny to say, there would be a phone bank in the town center. And if someone needed to reach you, they would call the phone, and then the guy would let the phone dangle from the phone booth, and they would run down the street, see if you were there. If you're not there, oh, well, she's not here. So it was kind of a nice time to allow for freedom to explore and be myself, but still stay in pretty decent communication.
And then, when I travel abroad, one of the things I find so interesting does feel like you're in the outside looking in, and you're like observing America from a different lens, right? Like, what do people think about America in other countries? In certain countries, I didn't even tell them I was from America. I tell them I'm from Africa. You get like one story when I was in China. When I tell them I was from Africa, they gave me better price. You know what I'm saying? So like, so and then I watched the BBC News and just see how the Wild Wild West and the guns and all, like we look different. So what was America? What did America look like from the outside? What did America look like for you in Ecuador?
Well, I have what I think is a good example. I was actually in Ecuador during 9/11. And so I would say 70 to 80% of the people doubled down and took care of me and said, hey, you're one of us. Like, I think America in general is different than a single person that someone has grown to love. So there were all the people who wanted to take care of me and make sure I was okay. But then there were, some people who were like, that's what you guys get. That's what you guys deserve. This is a good thing. And so I found an overwhelming sense of love and support. I also felt like, wow, we're the big bad guys that the rest of the world doesn't really like. And we have been corrupt and used our power in ways that wasn't good. So it was interesting to feel both protected and exposed.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, like the bully view of America from the outside. Either it's the big bully, or I guess just hothead or the young uncultured. Like that's Europe. Europe was like, we're young and uncultured. They have traditions and stuff. And then other places were like competitors with business and stuff. So it was just interesting to see that. So I always encourage people, when you go to another country, get the newspaper and read like the events how they portray the events that happen in America and other countries, and it's very enlightening. So one of the thoughts I have right now too is then at the end, let's say I think this is a great way. I definitely want to respect your time. At the end, you come back to America after your trip in Ecuador. What was the reverse shell shock or culture shock or thoughts as you touch back down, like things like, wow, Ecuador is doing this way better than us, like that?
It was actually a lot harder to come home than it was to go there. I find that other cultures, or the culture that I lived in Ecuador, was very family oriented. Mm-hmm. They take care of each other. Community matters. And the other thing that I was shocked, because I did come back to Maine to collect my dog from my parents, was that I went to the supermarket and there's no more brown people there. I was so used to being part of a culture that was different than mine that it was so stark for me to come back and see only Caucasian people. And Phil and I have talked about this, but Maine has changed in those 20 to 25 years that I got back. But that was the sense of community and how they take care of each other, and the fact that I live in a pretty Caucasian place, and that the consumerism of America, I found that very shocking. Like in Ecuador, you buy a pineapple from the corner store, and you buy your bread from the bread maker, and you buy your, whatever you need from the person who sells it, versus we just live in such a commercialized society where we consume and are built to consume more. I found that really shocking. And I remember this one specific time when I was helping my mom do the dishes, and I, had the water turned off, and I'm scrubbing everything. And she's like, you can use water to wash the dishes. I'm like, yeah, but you don't know, like, what if there's no more water? And what if, the guy doesn't come with my water? And what if I need to, ration this water for the week? Just that we unthinkingly consume so much and take it for granted.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And then this is one of my last questions before we go to my last segment. How do you think that has informed your view of health and public health? Seeing what was going on in Ecuador, seeing in America, how do you think? I'm thinking, honestly, if anyone wants to study public health, they need to be worldly too, to see how disproportionately health resources are, or just what other things are doing. But how has it shaped your view, being able to see other countries? How's that shaped your view of public health?
I think that my one recommendation would be to get a good picture of anything to do with public health in your area of interest is to go volunteer. So if you're interested in geriatrics, go to the nursing home and see what it is like to live the day-to-day life of whatever topic you're interested in. If you're interested in Planned Parenthood, because we have such great potential as a country. We have these world-class medical facilities. We have all this research. We have amazing facilities, yet we also have so much disease. So to find out what your passion is to volunteer in your area of expertise or interest and just dig in and see how you could make a change. Because America is so full, the United States is so full of potential. And I feel like that has really influenced my perspective, is just that we aren't nearly there, but there's a lot of young people with energy who can make the changes that we've always hoped to see come around.
I love it. So we have a part of my show called Shot for Shot, but actually we're going to do it easier because usually I just tell people, ask me a random question and put them on the spot. But we're very fortunate because right to, is that your right or left? I can't remember.
Left.
Left. To your left, we have some cards. So instead of having to be random and think of it, we're just going to shuffle those. And the first 2 cards we get, you answer the next one and I answer one. You want to go first? I go first.
You can go first.
All right, here you go. I'm going to read this one. It says, my favorite bar you go to. I don't really have a bar, so just give me another one. That's boring. All right, here you go. I'll just do this again. If you had to do a special ops secret mission, who would you choose to be your spy partner? Without a shadow of a doubt, I'd pick my wife. It'd also be a common sense spy partner because Maggie, like everyone knows that Maggie just has a lot of common sense. So we wouldn't get kidnapped. We wouldn't get, abducted. We wouldn't blow our cover. I could do the talking to people and the conversation part. She'll be like the logistics, like what's the next part of the plan. So that'd be my spy partner.
All right. Here's my question. Oh, I don't like that one either.
Yeah, skip it. Then.
What is the most exotic fruit you've ever tried? That's not a good one.
No.
Ooh, which of your friends do you think would be the first to become a millionaire? Yeah, that's not really good.
I hope it was me. Yeah, just keep going until you like one. Look at that.
I think I'm just cruising through these.
Yeah. One of the answers is probably Grateful Dead.
Ooh, have you ever butt dialed anyone and left a message? I've gotten butt dialed and left a message, and it was my father-in-law, and he was talking to his wife about how we didn't pick up the dog poop on the lawn and not to step in it. And he had accidentally called me and was like, oh, don't step there. Oh, don't step there, as they walked across the yard, which was hilarious. And I don't know if I've ever told him that story. So I've gotten butt dialed.
Yeah, notoriously. I have too by everybody. So this has been great. Thank you so much. I've been so grateful to have you here, your family, Max and Sadie. Blessing to have them here visiting us. You're always welcome in Virginia. And as I said earlier, my band is over. I'll be finally hitting up Maine. So get ready for me to visit. So now this is the part of the show I call shout outs and plugs. Shout out means you can show love to anyone you want to show love to. And then plugs, anything that you, or if you want people to follow up with you or get to know you, you can say no. Jeff one time said his shout out was all these people. And then he says, just go through Philip. That was his plug. But yeah. Shout outs and plugs, stage is yours.
Oh, gosh. Well, I'm really grateful for my kids who are here with me in Virginia, Max, and Sadie, and my husband who was down here with us but had to go home a day or two early, Pete, who's always working hard. I am on Instagram, and my handle is Hasdrobal, which is Hazdrobal, which is my childhood nickname for my dad. And no, just, my only shout out is having recently lost my dad and being around other people who have lost loved ones dear to them is just take every moment and appreciate the people who you're with because you just never know. So thank you so much, Phil.
Well, thank you so much. Listeners of Positive Philter, as always, every episode is dedicated to the memory of my father-in-law, Jeff Kirsch. So please consider contributing to the Jeff Kirsch Anti-Hunger Fund. I put that link in every show note to every episode. Give this episode a like, subscribe, review, whatever. Please encourage, be kind, support each other, and we're out. Okay, joining us after that wonderful episode with Kristen is her son Max, where we did a little bit of a game where we just asked each other questions. We used this how to talk to friends icebreaker cards, and we went back and forth with a quick dialogue. I'll put the cards in the show notes, but this is just a bonus content for this episode. I hope that you enjoy it and keep on listening. Go ahead. It's on.
Oh, it's recording?
Yeah, you can record whatever you want. I'll send you this raw.
I'd like to give a shout out to Canadian Bacon.
We're gonna drop that. Hey,
Very
so
important
we're just gonna
person.
go back and forth. Hey, tell her because I got a phone call in 5 minutes. So Max, let's do lightning round, and I'll send you this too. 5 minutes. Keep going.
Do you have a favorite play or musical?
Play or musical? I'm not a fan of musicals, but I actually got into Book of Mormon because I thought that was funny. That was a very funny one. And play Macbeth. I don't know. I like Shakespeare. I like when they do Shakespeare plays but make them movies. because they're pretty dope movies. I haven't really seen it. But Macbeth was pretty dope as a play. All right. Oh yeah, what's your favorite cartoon?
I don't really like cartoons.
Oh, too grown. All right.
Yeah.
All right, keep on. Speed round. You gotta go another one. We're just gonna go fast.
What's your favorite type of cheese?
Mozzarella. I like pizza too. Okay, which of your friends do you think would be the best at an eating contest?
I have this friend named Dylan who will, instead of walking to the kitchen back and forth on sleepovers, would take 5 or 4 slices of pizza and just stack it on his plate.
Would he house it though? I think the competition part. Is not only who would eat a lot, but eat fast. Does he eat fast too?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he totally won that.
All right. I think that's yours. Yours next.
Oh, nope, you just did that. Where was the strangest place you've fallen asleep?
Oh, I was about to say airport floor in China. I fell asleep there. I'm trying to think somewhere outdoors because I know that's happened. Outdoors. I fell asleep in college grass, outside on the grass. I don't know. I mean, ask Maggie. I literally fall asleep anywhere. So that's so hard because I will fall asleep anywhere. All right, here we go. What's your favorite podcast?
This one.
All right, thank you. That was a alley-oop. All right, listen. Positive Philter. That's the name of it.
Nope, we already did this one. What is your go-to snack right now?
Go-to snack, peanuts. The actual honey roasted nuts that Joan has, and chips, and everything. All right. What is the best fast food restaurant? Oh, we just talked to your mom about public health, you know? You're talking about fast food.
We don't really go to fast food, but I would say Five Guys because they have good shakes.
Okay. I wonder if that's still fast. I guess I consider it. It's fast enough. I was going to say Chipotle. All right. Is it mine or yours? It's yours.
Oh, yes, it is. Who is your favorite comedian?
Oh, that's... Wow. Top 5. Dave Chappelle, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor.
Pete Davidson?
No, I'm trying to think one more. Martin Lawrence. And that's such an entertainer. Bernie Mac. All pretty extreme, but they make me laugh a lot, and I still can watch them. All right. Oh, where's the best pizza from?
There's this place in Quito where there's the best pizza in the world.
Oh, yeah, we got 2 minutes. That's great. Where's it called again? What's the name of the pizza place?
Done.
Okay.
Bocanada.
Okay. All right. I'll take... Oh, Ecuador. I thought you was going to say someplace in Maine. I'm going to check
Ecuador,
out.
no.
I got to get on the plane. All right.
Or
nice.
Roma Pizza in Maine.
Okay. What is your favorite thing to eat for breakfast?
I like when I make myself and the whole family crepes.
All right. I'm keep going. This is all you. This is it. Lightning round. The strangest thing you ever eaten?
Forgetting the word. It's a fruit that we had in Ecuador. Guanabana.
Look at that. Worldly. What is the last park you visit?
The one we just went to, which I'm not aware of the name.
The Ninja Park, right? I don't know.
Ninja Park.
Oh, who is your favorite evil villain? I know mine.
Who's yours?
Magneto. He's not really evil. If you really listen, Magneto had a reason. If you really look at most villains, except for ones that are like psychotic, like the Joker's the only one. Most of them are like someone did something wrong to them and they just went the wrong way. But the other ones are like the Joker has nothing. He's just evil.
I think
he was done wrong. He was a good guy at first.
My favorite, because this is the only one I can think of, is Dr. Evil from Austin Powers.
I think someone did him wrong, right? I don't know. All right, and then, all right, no, we already did the pet one. We already did comfort food. We already did movie genre. We already did that one. I think we were already cranking out these. Put down. Ghost, no. No. Last one, no, these are all mine. Snack. No. Oh, man. Are these just all these ones? Oh, yeah, okay. You didn't answer this last time. Last
Okay.
question. Username. What would it be? Fun or clever?
Movie 15, because I like making like shorts and mini movies, and Patrick Mahomes is the best football player, so 15.
All right, well, this is a quick episode. You could do shout-outs and plugs for yourself. What do you
Shout out to Canadian Bacon.
What is that? Is that going to be like a YouTube channel name?
No, it's a wrestler.
Okay. All right. And
He's my favorite.
It's going to be merchandise, right? All right.
Yeah.
All right, I get 2%. 2% on the dollar. All right, thank you, Max, for being on the show. Peace.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity Movement. Thanks for listening.